We're live,
What's up, dude?
chilling, and excited to shine a light on some of these allegations against everyone's favorite governor, America's governor himself, Mr. Andrew Cuomo.
Gov Daddy, I think you mean.
Yeah, exactly. The most, uh, hyped up Democratic politician probably in this entire country by the media, especially in the age of coronavirus. Just a completely lionized, idolized, politician. He even won an
Basically,
Emmy.
as close
Remember
to a
when that?
living American aristocracy as you can get if you're a member of the Cuomo family. Obviously, his dad was governor of New York State. He married a fucking Kennedy. Okay, like you know what I mean? Like this dude is it's a bit,
Exactly.
This is a powerful dude.
Yeah, he won an Emmy. Remember that for his performances?
Oh my god! Don't fucking remind me. God.
Anyway, before we get started and dive into today's news, I did want to shout out our patrons, the people supporting us on patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. Really appreciate that support, guys, and the link is in the description below if you guys want to join our Patreon community. Really helps out the show. For as low as $1 a month, you can become a member. For $10 a month, you can become a Vanguardian member and join us on live streams such as these. So hit up that link, guys, if you want to support the show that way. And we really appreciate that. So hope everyone is well. Make sure to subscribe if you haven't already. Also, we're now on Spotify, so check out the Vanguard on Spotify if you want to listen to the audio versions of our podcasts. Those are available for your listening pleasure. So check that out. I put up the link in that for that in the description as well. So again, exciting stuff. But yeah, we wanted to
0.0001 cent return on every listen that you guys give to us in that bread.
Yeah, they gave us the option.
This must be what it feels like to be Justin Timberlake.
There's technically an option where we can like read out advertisements for like random companies or whatever on our Spotify episodes, but like I just can't imagine doing that kind of a thing.
We would never do that. We would never do that. That
just
sounds like
go to this link to buy this tyt.com/coffee to get this. You know what I'm saying? Like, not really our style here at the Vanguard. It's not really how we roll.
Yeah, you can just reference the manifesto. It will you won't hear us reading shit about any products. That's for
exactly.
Sure.
And because of that, that's another reason to hit up that Patreon if you do have some, cash burning a hole in your pocket, want to support a leftist, independent media, whatever you want to call us, channel. That's a great thing to do. Yeah, a video podcast and
a visual audio media apparatus.
Yeah, exactly.
Anyway,
that's not why you guys tuned in today to hear us sell our fucking Patreon. You want to hear about Andrew Cuomo, like I said, America's favorite governor, who's been mired in scandal as of late, really taking a fall from grace, I would say. Even in the mainstream media, it seems like they're finally kind of like catching up and adjusting their tone to the new realities that have been laid bare.
To be clear, we always scorned his fucking corrupt ass on the Vanguard.
Oh yeah, we always saw through that shit. And if you don't watch CNN all day, you get a more objective picture of figures like Mr. Cuomo. If you're reading a wide variety of different reporting and independent outlets like the Daily Poster, which has been putting up some great articles on this situation as it's developed. And obviously that's in reference to the whole nursing home cover up and threatening Assembly Member Kim on a phone call, threatening to destroy his life. Multiple people have come out and kind of affirmed that sentiment behind that accusation that indeed he is abusive.
That's like the most New York shit ever. Can we just pause and reflect on how that should come out of like a fucking Francis Ford Coppola film or a Martin Scorsese? Like, you know what I mean? Like
100%. And when I first heard about this story, it actually immediately reminded me of that story from a couple of years ago when Chris Cuomo also blew up on like some random pedestrian that like called him Fredo or whatever, and he was like screaming and like got extremely emotional and like was really triggered by it, apparently, like in public too. So they clearly have this like streak of, like you said, kind of that like New York like mafia gangster energy.
I think I'm sensing a strain of anti-Italian racism here. I'm not sure I'm comfortable with this. Oh gosh, my hands are tied here. If I don't fucking eviscerate you publicly, and that would be bad for my career. So the claws are back. No, Yeah.
Yeah.
It was fucking hilarious. He said that being called Fredo was the same as calling a black person the N-word. I was like, are you fucking kidding me? That's a reference to the fucking Godfather too.
I know, right?
Like,
It was
shut the
so
fuck up.
dumb. It was so funny. It was so funny. Just like such a classic privilege, move. Like, come on, man. You're like one of the most powerful and rich people in the entire state of New York. You're really gonna pull that card? Like, come on, man. And not to mention you have a
And
literal
also
show on
pretending to
CNN.
Yeah, pretending to be taking COVID all seriously while himself still like being caught multiple times going out. To be fair, Governor Cuomo is not responsible for his brother, but he was perfectly happy to go buddy up with him on CNN during a fucking world pandemic and exploit that connection, obviously.
Yeah, exactly. And to just give him softball coverage and, easy interviews that made him look like a saint and like this great figure. Meanwhile, not reporting on the, realities. Thanks for that super chat, Josh. We appreciate that. And yeah, he's, having a little bit of that energy himself. Although I guess the reason why
Gavin, they've
Fredo.
now corrected the issue. He's not gonna be interviewing his brother anymore.
Yeah, no, thank God. Now the problem's fixed in media. But today we were wanting to talk about a recent development as of, just a day or two ago. And that is Lindsey Boylan's recent accusations against Cuomo, which she has voiced before, but now has really, really come out in a very public way, writing a Medium article. She's currently a candidate for Manhattan Borough President, just for context. She was a past congressional candidate. She's a pretty based lefty from what I'm aware of her. I was really a big fan of her platform, and it sucks that she didn't win her, race, her primary in New York City when she did run for Congress. So obviously, we can't really comment beyond, just, relaying the accusations to you guys. Apparently, Andrew Cuomo has come out and denied these allegations, obviously, but we can take a look and see what Lindsey said on Twitter and on Medium. So yeah, it looks like she's says, today I'm telling my story. I never planned to share the details of my experience working in the Cuomo administration, but I'm doing so now in hopes that it may make it easier for others to speak their own truth. And in the story, she references the fact that, not only Assemblymember Kim, but even Bill de Blasio have pointed out that, this guy's a bully and that they're not surprised about these accusations coming out, not the ones from Boylan, but in general, the allegations of abuse, that they fit into a tradition or a pattern of behavior from the governor. Did you check this piece out, Zach, or is this your first time glancing it over?
No, I did look at it earlier today, kind of before we were getting ready to do the show. It was I wasn't expecting it, but then you mentioned it to me, and but anyway, this one I just want to point out before we get into this. Of course, Bill de Blasio got in on slamming Andrew Cuomo. That's like his favorite activity, but for once it was fucking useful.
Yeah.
So love to see that from Bill. That's like the one thing he's fucking useful for. But yeah, as far as this goes, fucking disgusting, right? The strip poker. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And apparently, she straight up says that he sexually harassed her. At one point in the article, she says that he touched her without, consent, basically just being a complete and utter disgusting creep in the workplace as someone in a position of power. Obviously, that's unacceptable behavior to be exhibiting over people that are like underneath you, especially when you're in this high of a position of power, to have this, sexist of a work environment that you've fostered. It really is just disgusting. And it's so indicative of the values of this man. And, completely disregarding these allegations that like from Lindsey Boylan, there's been multiple people that have said similar things about the climate created under his administration. The conditions in his office were very demeaning and degrading to women. Very just, he would give you extra attention if he thought you were attractive. And apparently he called Boylan, said that she looked like his ex-girlfriend. He said they looked like they could be sisters. So just really creepy. Really
fun fact about Governor
stuff.
Cuomo. Do you want to know who one of his ex-girlfriends is? I learned this just completely randomly one time while reading Anthony Bourdain's book.
Who?
Sandra Lee from the Food Network. I don't know if you've ever seen that. the show Semi Homemade. My mom used to like it when I was a kid, but she is like very like I don't know. She kind of gives me like Gwyneth Paltrow vibes in a way, like very like I don't know. Anyway, for
That's
anybody who's
funny.
listening who spent too much of their childhood exposed to the Food Network Food Channel, this will give you some insight into Governor Cuomo's brain.
Yeah, the Food Network that I'm familiar with is all like the Chopped and Iron Chef, the
Oh,
competition
this
one.
was
So
before that. Yeah, this
okay,
was
I
before
gotcha.
that. This is like 2004, 2005 era
Interesting,
Food Network.
interesting. But yeah, here's that quote that I mentioned. Um, he said they look like they could be sisters, and said that she looked like the better sister. He
The
began
better
calling her
looking
Lisa.
sister.
Yeah, it was degrading, she said. Here's an email that was shared. Yeah, so definitely some pretty unfortunate allegations here. She calls him a sexist pig, or at least her mother did. So yeah, I guess this is just a little bit of confirming what was probably expected, given the nature of his, abusive behavior and pattern of being just generally a toxic boss, I guess you could say, and a sexist pig.
Yeah, and he sounds, I
But
mean, like a piece of garbage, right? Like a dude that's accustomed to getting whatever he wants, like a bossy piece of shit. He's in a position of authority. He's imposing. He's going to get what he wants. Oh, but I mean, it's so, I mean, unsurprising given all, especially, I mean, you can't even deny it. You can't even feign surprise given all the revelations about like how our culture has been structured, right? This is, I mean, I'm not like, this isn't to imply that like, oh, it's going to come out that Governor Cuomo was like a serial rapist, but I definitely think that he's at least in the kind of serial scumbaggery that somebody like Joe Biden would be involved with, right? As we've made clear a million times on this podcast, the Vanguard stands with Tara Reid and any other women that come out against these powerful fucking pigs. Because look, and it doesn't take anything to hear these people out. It doesn't take anything to believe them and encourage them to speak out because they never get a fucking fair shake. They never get a fair trial. Everybody wants to quick and jump to, oh, are we just going to start sentencing people before they have even had a trial? Blah, blah, blah. No, because guess what? Nobody sees any fucking justice for, sexual assault and malpractice anyway when they're perpetrated by these uber powerful men. The best that you can do is allow them to have a platform to share their story, to be heard. And, I'm not surprised by any of the assertions that she made. I'm not surprised by the behavior that she describes. I think it's incredibly common, and I think it was even more so now. It's only recently that we've decided that this is unacceptable behavior for men who are in powerful positions to not essentially treat pretty women like objects that can be accumulated, right? If you have enough wealth, you're supposed to be able to have whatever pretty thing you want.
yeah, exactly. And here, this is confirmed. It does look like Cuomo has again denied these allegations. But I'll just say on that matter that similarly with the Joe Biden situation, like if this was a high-profile Republican politician that was routinely among the top poll people that were, in consideration for 2024 nominees, for example, which Cuomo has routinely been at the top of polls for 2024 in the Democratic primary, for example, if that was on the Republican side and these kind of allegations were coming out, there's no doubt in my mind that a lot of Democrats would be out here, talking about how scandalous this is and talking about how disgusting it is that he was, propped up by the media and lionized, and now this is coming out. But just like with Joe Biden, because it's politically inconvenient, we really just see the Democrats kind of forgetting about the Me Too movement, kind of just discarding that progress, which they pretended to be, in favor of and instrumental behind. Now it's kind of crickets. And like I said, it does seem like the media is kind of adjusting its tone towards Cuomo. But it's really unfortunate because if you look up a lot of this stuff, it's right-wing outlets reporting on it. It's the New York Post. It's more salacious publications because, the polite journalists, the liberal class of, Washington, D.C. and New York City, they don't want to touch this story. They don't want to touch Cuomo's, really shady behavior because it's considered kind of awkward and uncomfortable and impolite.
He'll
Because
destroy
again,
them.
yeah, well, yeah, he'll destroy them if they're in the New York City sphere, and also just because he's been so lionized by the media. he's been so propped up. It's just almost embarrassing for the media to now have to, be like, oh shit, guys, we kind of fucked up on that one, and hyped up and lionized, gave all this free media to this monster, this Nixonian figure, as David Sirota, kind of made the connection in this great Jacobin piece, which you guys should definitely check out. And Cuomo is
that goes into Assemblyman Kim's accusations a lot more closely, and it just kind of goes back to that whole like, oh, I'll destroy your career, like I am a powerful man, I know who I can make phone calls to, kind of mafia style governance that New York is, for better or worse, kind of known for, right? Like Rudy Giuliani, fucking Mike Bloom. I mean, these kinds of guys, they do shady deals. I mean, Mike Bloomberg's not tough, right? But he was just shady.
Right.
Rudy Giuliani wasn't particularly tough either, but he definitely worked with the mob.
Right, exactly. And one of the, aspects of this whole scandal that in my opinion is not getting covered enough for obvious reasons. But it's the fact that, Cuomo, he did, fudge the numbers and try to hide the data, tried to cover up the accurate, death toll in the nursing homes. But the reason why he lifted the liability shield in the first place, the legal liability, and gave the nursing homes legal immunity, is essentially because they were his largest donor, one of his very largest donors, and they essentially drafted and gave him the legislation that ended up giving them that legal immunity. So here's just such a cut and dry, obvious issue of campaign finance corruption, why we shouldn't have corporations and giant industry lobbyist groups essentially funding campaigns. And I mean, this is a story where no one can deny that it's fucked up, but the liberal media won't tell you why. They won't, connect those dots and explain, oh, he took this huge sack of money and then the, lobbyists ran out the door. And obviously that's going to influence his decision.
$2 million from the Greater New York Hospital Association's executives and lobbying firms. They also gave, they were giving massive amounts of money to the New York state legislature, right? So it wasn't just him so yes, he's corrupt also, but this trickles down. The corruption always trickles down, right? Never the wealth. The legislator's been paid off too, 400. But that also just lets you know how deep it is, right? Compare that. So let me just read that quote again. Cuomo's political machine received more than $2 million from the Greater New York Hospital Association, its executives, and its lobbying firms, while the healthcare industry group also funneled more than $450,000. So Andrew Cuomo got more than 4 times as much as the entire New York assembly from these people, right? That money's talking, okay? And that money's talking, and it's sweeping a lot of shit under the rug, okay? That's what's going on.
Yeah. And like this money essentially literally led to these deaths, led to, the fact that these businesses and corporations are able to operate essentially with complete legal immunity. Of course, that led to them making decisions which led to actual human death and suffering, because it was in the incentive was there for them profit wise. So it's really hard to overstate or to it really is important to properly understand the severity of these campaign finance laws, what the end result is of this brazen corruption, this undeniable, transfer of money from corporate sector into politicians' campaign fund. And obviously it affects their governance and decision making, their legislative agenda. It's so obvious, and it's just unfortunate that we have this bombshell scandal, but very few people are making that connection and pointing out that, of course, not only this, but of course it's going on at a presidential level too, and at the federal government with our coronavirus response and our
that's
continued
the thing,
austerity.
Right? New York is often we talk about this all the time on the show. Where New York goes, the rest of the country often follows, right? And that was the exact same way with Andrew Cuomo's protections, the liability shields for these companies, right? 27 states, according to David Sirota, this piece right here, 27 states have followed with those liability shields.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. Including a bunch of Republican states and, Republican governors basically totally adopting this legislation, this legal immunity.
Democrat.
Yeah, it came from a Democrat.
Well, I guess he is a Democrat, right? We're just not.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah, exactly. And at this point, Andrew Cuomo is, pretty representational of, the Democratic Party and their corruption and their values. So, in that sense, I guess he is a good personification of the Democratic Party as a whole. And I wonder if he will be able to recover from this scandal politically at all, if he will still, try to run for president at any point. Because I certainly, if you would have asked me, like, maybe 6 months ago, I would have thought he would have been a clear, favorite for, or at least a top contender for the 2024 primary, assuming that Joe Biden doesn't just run for a second term. Which, oh my
I
God,
think he would have done well. I think now that's all over, but do you think he would have done well?
I think he could have, yeah, because the media loves him so much, and 2020 really did show us too how powerful, MSNBC is and CNN are to your average liberal, especially in the older generations, and that's just an unfortunate reality that we have to grapple with. And I mean, yeah, he was totally lionized. Even people that are genuinely progressive, I think, fell under the spell of the media when it came to Cuomo. They really fell for this kind of, this lionization of him. I remember there was all these kind of like, folksy, like, oh, I got this letter in the mail from like some Nebraska farmer, and like all these like tear jerking moments that the media just played like 24/7 nonstop, like really, really romanticizing the portrait of this governor. And especially in contrast to Trump, I mean, admittedly, he did seem so much more competent. He seemed so much more caring and, compassionate of a leader. Of course, that was all acting, hence the Emmy. But the media really helped him out as far as painting that picture and elevating that performance to a. And I think they would continue to do that if he did run for president. Now, again, I don't know if he'll be able to get past this scandal because this is just such a bad look. And again, with the Lindsey Boylan accusations as well. And she said she spoke to some other people that, affirmed her experiences and relayed their own. So we'll see if any more allegations come out. But it does kind of seem like with the Assembly member Kim, saying the phone call where he was apparently threatened to destroy him. And now this, Lindsey Boylan reasserting her allegations. It definitely kind of seems like Cuomo's, his bubble is bursting. He's kind of in a downward slide. He's definitely on the defensive. I thought his response to the nursing home revelations was really pathetic. He kind of just gave out this, like, he didn't, admit that he was wrong or admit that there was wrongdoing. He doubled down and got defensive, and it was just really clear that, he wasn't acting like a leader. And like I said, even the media is starting to realize that now, I think.
Yeah, 100%, right? And he's gotten so many chances from mainstream media, and he's going to get 100 more, right? I mean, just compare this for a second between how they would have handled this if it was, fucking Governor DeSantis in Florida, who had accusation out about him like this and had been threatening somebody about releasing shit for COVID, right? I mean, it would have been fucking everywhere. It would have been literally a Watergate kind of, they would have called it like DeSantis Gate, right? I'm just using him as like a stand-in for the first Republican senator or governor that came in my brain. Yeah. I could have fucking used my own. It's funny that he didn't. Fucking Mike Parson could. I can't imagine Mike Parson getting involved in a scandal though. Like he just is.
Yeah, his former Governor Eric Greitens definitely tread that.
Yeah, that's true. He did, but that wasn't. I mean, nobody gives a shit about Missouri, so they just didn't give a fuck about that.
I mean, that story did get some national coverage just because it was so crazy. He had literally like a woman like tied up in his basement. Like it was a crazy scandal. But yeah, Mike Parson is just way more of like a good old boy, like old school, like conservative, just like whatever, lame, like unmemorable, bland.
Seems like he would hang out with Mike Pompeo. When they're all
in the Midwest. I feel
Mike
that.
Pompeo's from Kansas, like what I mean. Like, he just seems like they would be together and that kind of fuck.
I remember Republicans wanted Mike Pompeo to run for that Senate seat that ultimately went to I don't even remember his name, but Roger Marshall or something like
Roger
that.
Marshall,
yeah. They wanted they wanted Pompeo to run for that seat, but ultimately were unsuccessful in convincing him.
I kind of wanted what's his fuck to get the nomination, but it didn't happen.
On the Democrat
side, everybody always says that's playing with fire.
Kobach.
Kobach was running, but I was like, I don't know. It would have been at least it's an extra. I don't know. It is playing with fire because he was a fucking crazy animal. He was.
For sure.
I didn't think Hanson's would go for him. I thought he was too. Like,
I mean, they didn't go for him the last time he was up at a statewide level for governor.
That was for governor, right?
Yeah. And he got trounced by like 8 percentage points by Laura Kelly. So he was pretty like, Laura Kelly's definitely better than,
she's fine. Yeah. She's done
she's
way
not
better
like
job with
amazing.
COVID than he would have done.
Yeah, exactly. So
Anyway, that's a
anyway,
tangent. Nobody cares about
yeah.
Midwestern politics.
Back to the coasts. But yeah, Andrew Cuomo's a piece of shit. That's the too long didn't read. Fuck Andrew Cuomo. And fuck the media too for again lionizing him, giving him so much free media coverage and uncritically slobbering all over him and his every word. Not even to mention the whole Chris Cuomo, Andrew Cuomo brother on brother, CNN specials. That's wins the award for the cringiest and most unserious piece of television journalism of the year. That at least that premiered on a mainstream, media network.
I don't know. When you see two dudes, brothers, sucking each other off on television, that just kind of attracts ratings. You can't fucking help it, dude. That's on it now.
Yeah, dude, it was definitely extremely embarrassing. I can't believe the extent.
Mom likes me better.
Yeah.
Mom likes me better. No, she doesn't. No, she doesn't.
Yeah, that was
okay,
cringe.
see you at Thanksgiving, buddy. All right, pal. Thank you for letting all those people die and suffer. Okay, ciao.
Yeah, it was straight cringe.
But,
we did have a few other. We did have a few other.
Speaking
stories.
of CNN, I thought this would make a good lighthearted moment where we could trash a different member of the CNN. This is a throwback. This is a throwback that I didn't know about until recently, but I stumbled across this gem, and I wanted all of you to be able to bask in it with me.
Indeed, Mr. Wolf Blitzer.
Wolf Blitzer. Go ahead.
I was just gonna say, do you know like where Wolf Blitzer, like how he got his start? I'm trying to remember like what he.
Wolf Blitzer's been on CNN for as long as I can remember.
Okay.
Yeah, he's been on CNN since 1990.
Yeah.
So
okay. He was their military. Apparently, he was their military affairs reporter when he first started. So
either way,
yeah.
Been there for a good while, the long haul. And he's not and the thing is that like one of the I guess Matt Taibbi made this really good point in Hate Inc. about how the media always wants to show you how smart that they are and how you always have all these pundits who are like trying to like pawn themselves off as like crazy informed when really they're reading off teleprompters. And he gave the example of Wolf Blitzer being dumb as rocks. And then he was like, seriously, go check out his performance on Jeopardy. This dude's an idiot. And I was like, oh man, Wolf Blitzer went on Jeopardy. And I watched and I was like, this is hilarious. So if we can get full screen action, it's worth full screen. Buckle up for the ride, everybody, and hold on to your piss because it's going to be funny.
Now we come to Wolf Blitzer. The Situation Room. I'm sure you can answer a question that I have for you. The name of this pasta, similar to penne, means little mustaches. Doesn't sound so tasty now. Wolf.
What is fettuccine?
No. If you can read, you can cook. She wrote in the introduction to her classic, Mastering the Art of French Cooking. Wolf.
Who is Julia Childs?
That's right. We have a score change to announce, and that affects you, Wolf. I'm informed that you put an S on Julia Child's name. It's Julia Child, and so we have to deduct 800. You're at 200. King David and Jesus both hailed from this town. Wolf.
What is Jerusalem?
No. An accused person in court, along with his counsel. Wolf.
What is a defendant?
No. Selected some material from a larger work. Wolf.
Annotated?
No. The 1850s saw a bad one of this 5-letter word that refers to an economic crash and the fear-driven rush to sell. Wolf.
What is a crash?
No. Wolf, things have not worked out as well as you had hoped for, I'm sure. Andy's so much faster on that signaling device today. But it's long been our policy on Celebrity Jeopardy that all contestants get to play in the final round. And so even though you're at minus 4,600 now, we're going to wipe that out. Going to give you an even $1,000 so you get to play in Final Jeopardy as well.
Yeah, there you go.
Fettuccine was the best part, man.
Yeah, not gonna front though. That's why I'll never go. I could never go on Jeopardy, because I'd probably.
Oh come on, you would have gotten Julia Child.
Yeah, I wouldn't have put the S on the end of her name. That is for sure. Julia
You wouldn't
Child.
have gotten Crash, which was in the question, as Gina G in the comment section
Yeah, dude,
pointed
that one was
out.
so funny. Yeah, dude, that was a great clip. And also just another example of how just because people are on TV, reading you the news or giving you their opinions about the news does not necessarily mean that they're particularly all that intelligent. Again, not that I would maybe do amazing on Jeopardy. I'm not great at trivia either, but that was a pretty embarrassing performance. And also just the
I would
like
totally go on Jeopardy. Free money. I wouldn't click it if I didn't know the fucking answer. That's why he kept fucking
yeah.
up.
Yeah, exactly. That's what I was gonna say. Like, it's almost like an arrogance or something that he was just like.
It is 100%. It's arrogance. No, that's the funniest part of the whole video. Like, for people who don't know how Jeopardy works, the reason he kept losing money was because he was clicking the clicker before everybody and then not knowing the answer, and he kept fucking over and over, fucking himself over and over. Oh my god, it was so funny because it is exactly the perfect, kind of metaphor, right? It's the perfect kind of encapsulation of the entire CNN ethos, right? Like,
Yep.
quick to getting there and then getting it wrong, right? And then just
True.
but standing up and then still walking out like you're the smartest. Like, that's the racket, right? So Wolf's in the right business, right? He's not in the having brains business. He's in the toe the line business. And when you're in the toe the line business, you got to watch yourself, as Nancy Pelosi reminded him when he dared step out of line on CNN.
Yeah, I forgot about that. But yeah, the reading off the teleprompter business, he certainly excels at that. It takes a certain type of
Colgate commercial.
Yeah, exactly. And that's the thing with a lot of these media people. Like, it doesn't matter what side of the aisle they're on. They would take, any path to, getting that high paid job, that, powerful position in the media. A lot of these people don't actually have an ideology.
Sorry, I had to.
Yeah, I forgot about Mehdi Hassan. He's now on MSNBC.
MSNBC, dude, what the fuck? Like, you have to just sign a waiver that says, I'll never challenge the military-industrial complex, or I'm sure they've gotten smart after the Jesse Ventura shit went down. They know they poached a guy from The Intercept. Okay, so now for the rest of our fucking lives, we have to listen Mehdi Hassan be like, I used to be a progressive, but now they've gone so far, those blasted fucking loonies. Like,
Yeah, dude, it's pretty funny. Like I said to you this morning, the metamorphosis is now complete. He's now just fully an MSNBC liberal. Yeah. He was on their Peacock network, so it was only a matter of time before, like I said, the completion of the metamorphosis into a full-fledged MSNBC liberal. But now he's there.
This is like my TYT. I listened to Mehdi Hassan. I followed Mehdi Hassan like the whole time that he was at The Intercept. I actually really liked him until the end, when he made it really fucking obvious that it was like not gonna be like, Russiagate really ruined a lot of shit for everybody, right? And this dude was like Trump. I don't know. Maybe he was always. I don't know. I liked him for a while.
Oh yeah, no, he had some good takes. Even like, I've even seen a few clips of his Peacock show where he's done some decent work, like questioning certain people. I forget who, but like, he's not one of the absolute worst or the worst or anything. It's just disappointing more than anything.
Yeah. To see where he was, and to just go somewhere where they're going to take the teeth out of any of your reporting just kind of frustrates me as somebody who, like you already have a platform, Mehdi. Like, if you actually gave a shit about this, like, you could be doing good reporting. Like, you already have a career. Like, there's no there's no justification other than narcissism to try and go on MSNBC and have a big show with all the fancy lights. Like, you can, stick to your guns and do an actual real show without censorship, without anything else, with way less resources. So I don't know. I always irritates me when I don't. That's essentially like selling out, right? That's like.
Yeah, and again, if you're being invited on in the first place, that automatically says something about your values as a journalist, or what you're willing to say, the lines you're willing to toe, the self-censorship that you're expected to impose upon yourself, to be a journalist, quote unquote, at a place like MSNBC. And again, he does do some decent work. I'm not totally trying to debase the value of anything that he's ever done or does, but it certainly is telling when someone's just willing to cozy up to that crowd, definitely a little bit of a red flag for sure. And again, like I don't think there's anything wrong with going on a show. Like we've defended people that even go on Tucker Carlson or like Michael Moore. He goes on MSNBC all the time, and I think it's a good thing that he does because it's a break in the monotony
He's one
of
of the weird people who
neoliberal.
gets a pass because he's like their resident like. And maybe you could argue that this is bad or not, but he's the resident like lefty that they have on, and
Yeah.
Michael Moore is the guy that they have on who was like, "You opposed the Iraq War. What do you think about that?" And to be fair, I think he got a lot more opportunity to go on MSNBC because of how open and just like crazy he hated Donald Trump, and that was their business.
Yeah, exactly. And despite the fact that he used to, he like with Ralph Nader's original run, he was a supporter. He has become a pretty loyal Democrat in the sense that he's never going to buck the party orthodoxy. He's always going to get behind the Democratic nominee. He did so with Hillary. He did so with Biden, and pretty enthusiastically too. More enthusiastically than I ever would have, gotten behind Hillary or Biden. But he's Michael Moore. He's a special guy. So we talk about Michael Moore a lot on the show, but we have a soft spot for him too. And even though he does like say some cringy stuff sometimes, he's I do think overall a force for good, a progressive guy.
Yeah, his documentaries are great. And he was in the hardest spot going to bat for climate change with Planet of the Humans. It wasn't even his own film, right? It was a film he just produced for Jeff Gibbs, who was a homie of his, and he went to bat for it hard as fuck, and he put his name all over it, and he said, if you're going to kick this guy, you have to kick me too and tarnish my reputation. So he's always put his money where his mouth is, his reputation where his mouth is. He stood on the Oscar stage, as we've talked about on the, many times. He gave the most legendary Oscar acceptance speech, bar none. Nobody comes close. So anyway, one person we don't typically have a soft spot for on the show, Sagar. I wanted to bring up this fucking clip because it made me mad, guys. Okay, so I watch Rising, as I'm sure pretty much fucking everybody does at this point, because I like to be plugged into everything, and I don't watch it like rigorously. I don't watch it daily. There's some shows that I watch.
You wake up every morning on the dot with your coffee, watch the entire thing back to back.
I can never even figure out how to watch the whole thing back to back. It always just shows up in like clips.
Well, can you technically go to like rising.tv and just watch it live or whatever? I think it's technically a live broadcast.
I'm an old man, Gavin. I watch the clip versions every time they release something out. It'll be like, Aaron Mate on. I'm like, oh, I'll watch that. Or Beyond the Joy Gray on. I'm like, oh yeah, I'm gonna watch that.
And some people do shit on Rising like pretty hardcore, but I will say that as far as mainstream, outlets, places like The Hill, I do think it's probably the best as far as like news shows of that.
That's why we have to remind ourselves it is still establishment, right? They're not it's not. I mean, even though like Crystal is really supportive of like bread tubers who are doing this at a really high level. Somebody like Kyle Kalinske and her have a show together, Crystal, Kyle, and friends. But when she's at work at Rising, like she is like it is a way more corporate environment. Like nobody taps on Kyle Kalinske's shoulder and says, hey, don't say that shit. Like, you know what I mean? Like, and I'm not saying that happens at directly at the level for The Hill, but there's definitely shit that they can't say on The Hill. That if they started saying, I guarantee you they don't have Max Blumenthal on The Hill to talk about how it's not an actual genocide going on in China. That's some shit. That's a line they won't cross, right? So just to give people an idea, you know what I mean? I don't think that's a line that The Hill would cross. That's
no, I know what you're saying. I think the same thing you could say about the Syria reporting by Aaron Mate.
Did they have him on for that? I don't watch it like that. I don't know. I couldn't say.
No, I don't think it was even. I don't even think the show existed at that time. I'm just saying it seems like another one of those stories where they might not have touched it because it was very controversial and not in line with the media mainstream narrative. But that being said, like I was saying earlier, I do give them credit for they really do platform a lot of really independent voices, people like Aaron Mate, who actually was just on. So overall, I think it's a good thing that it exists. I think it exposes people that may not have been exposed previously to more progressive or socialist ideas that now have access to these thinkers. They have on people like Richard Wolff, and obviously I don't watch I never watch like Sagar's individual videos or like his rants or whatever, but like I still think there is some value to hearing out the, you know, other side of the aisle as far as like keeping an eye on like, you know, how are conservatives thinking about things. I think it's
sometimes
valuable
the
to
most
understand.
painful people to listen to on Rising are actually the, like, every time they'll have like a Democratic Party person on to try and be fair, and they'll
Yeah.
like, and I'm like listening to this person like go to the bat for the Democrats, and I'm like, this is worse than listening to like one of the, like, you know, fucking Trump guys go on here, and like I'm like, I don't know. But anyway, without further ado, they said Sagar pissed me off, kind of, right? It fucking irritated me the way that he went on and sort of dragged the Root, which is one of the few you know, black issue publications, right? They're of the same kind of parent, I don't know, it's like the same as the AV Club, the Onion, that sort of thing. And they're all part of that, you know.
Oh, really?
And
I didn't know that. I didn't know the Root was under that same banner.
I'm like almost 100% sure of that, because like when you go to the root.com, like it's has the AV Club, Deadspin, Jalopnik, like all that's the Onion, where you can just like click from the top of it. But anyway, for people who aren't familiar with the Root, they have the blacker the content, the sweeter the truth is their little headline, obviously in a reference to Kendrick Lamar's legendary 2015 release, To Pimp a Butterfly. If there's been a better piece of art ever created, I haven't consumed it. But anyway, that's an aside. If you've listened to the pod, I fucking love Kendrick Lamar. I think he's by far the Bob Dylan of our generation, the poet of our time, all those compliments and more. But anyway, this was what Sagar had to say about a very fucking obvious point that the Root made. So let's just hear this out.
New domestic terror law. I saw an article in The Root, and look, I know it's The Root, and it's like, you know, the critical race theory, blah, blah, blah. But
oh yeah, critical race theory.
They're writing an article saying if these people were in Iraq, we would have hit them. They're talking about that as if they would have.
What the fuck? That's so obvious. If these people were in Iraq, we would have hit them. No, we would have killed them. We would have shot them to fucking death, which I'm pretty sure is what he was implying. Obviously, that would have happened. This is ridiculous. What are you saying? Also, one, like, why take a cheap shot at critical race theory? Like, that one, I want to say that aside.
Right wingers all the time, dude. That's like one of the right wingers love to bring up critical race theory and like mock it and shit.
It's fucking irritated me for one. Two, you didn't even bring anything to back. Like, you brought the worst fucking argument. You made something that's so obvious. Like, yeah, water's blue, the sky, like, you know what I mean? Like, fucking
yeah.
Grass is green, dude. Anyway.
Have been killed by the U.S. military, but with a drone strike. They're like, we would have slaughtered them. Like, just outright insanity, which is being printed right there. I mean, this is a
outright insanity. You mean that's going on every single fucking day in the Middle East, perpetuated by the United States government?
It's so crassly.
That might be actually true, but not something to be celebrated or embraced. Like that's the thing is when.
I don't really understand Crystal's response either, because she's like,
dude, that was the worst shit. Like, I'm trying to get out of this and I don't want to have a conflict.
Yeah.
That was, I'm sorry. I like Crystal, but that, I mean, and I get that's the balance of their show. She was trying to be nice, but I would have hammered Sagar. I couldn't have a show with Sagar.
Well, yeah,
I would
and
be like,
that's the problem too, and I kind of feel bad because they're on like a time schedule. They have to get to the next story at a certain time. She can't just like argue with him whenever she wants. So obviously, I'm not like, you know, trying to give her any shit, but I do think that was weird because it's not like they were celebrating that fact. They were just acknowledging it was a fact. If that had happened in Iraq, some insurgents or whatever like stormed a military base that was ours, the American base, there would absolutely be fatal consequences. They would absolutely be droned or gunned down by some, you know, machine gun or whatever. Like, it's insanity to think otherwise. And honestly, if these protesters had been Black Lives Matter protesters or really a leftist, you know, anti-war protesters, really any sort of a leftist movement, I think there's a really good chance, a really good case to be made that they would have been met with vicious violence, and not just vicious force, but you know, the government would have already known it was coming because they've, you know, infiltrated these groups. They have informants, you know, in Black Lives Matter, and they have their, you know, moles and their spies in these various leftist organizations, and also they're surveilling them, you know, tapping their phones and, you know, internet and Facebook groups, all this stuff. So they're actually monitoring these leftist organizations as if they're terrorist groups, but they're completely ignore as a general rule. I mean, not entirely, but a lot of times they completely ignore the right wing, you know, actual domestic terrorist threats. Again, while they focus on BLM and you know, BDS and you know, spy on you know, Muslim worshiping places. So it's so yeah, Moss. Sorry, but yeah, it's ironic for that reason too. And
well, just compare it at all with the like the absolutely peaceful protest for Black Lives Matter, right? Overwhelmingly peaceful, right? I was there with my own fucking Gavin and I were both in Kansas City's protests. Obviously, we saw them with our own fucking eyes. They were peaceful protests. No, and yet they were greeted with this harsh militaristic response that surpassed already what many of the protesters experienced once they'd already stormed the Capitol, right? We made the fucking observation. It looked more like a Rage Against the Machine concert than an insurrection, right? The fucking cops were just like fucking moshing around like, oh man, this is exciting. Other white people, I don't have to be alarmed, right? Like, we're in on this together, brother. Whatever the fuck that they were saying to each other in the fucking place, right?
Taking selfies and shit
with the cops, the fucking pig fuckers. Yeah, it's so opposite. I mean, I'm just like, oh, dude. And it's to just laugh that off or to like it's so obvious. It's such a bad point. Like, this is a total belly flop. And yeah, I don't understand. Like, obviously the Root wasn't celebrating that at Crystal. Yeah. Like, obviously they were writing about that as a tragedy of modern times, and which is why we need shit like critical race theory, Sagar, so that we can heal this deeply wounded society. Anyway.
Yeah, and again, like, sure, I'm sure that the Root has published some cringy takes, maybe something that was like overly wokeist or like, something that maybe would warrant criticism or mockery. This is not, that story. This is a very clear point that I think is extremely obvious, extremely, it's hard to deny. And it blows my mind the how they just kind of go like paper over that, do deny it. I think it's so dumb. And again, like you said, when the protesters stormed the Capitol, there was basically no police response whatsoever. If you contrast that with events going on over the summer, there was like a I forget what it was exactly, but there was like a violin candlelit vigil that got like tear gassed and like maced, completely peaceful at one point in Minneapolis, I believe. Like, routinely completely peaceful demonstrations were just tear gassed, abused. Donald Trump famously ordered the tear gassing and forced removal of protesters to make way for his photo op, in which he held a Bible upside down. That was a real low point that a lot of people probably remember, but that was just one of many moments that one got highly televised, obviously, but many times where protesters that were being peaceful, that weren't burning down things, and there really is no equating what happened on January 6th with the actions of your average, BLM protester.
George
Not
Floyd,
at all.
Breonna,
Yeah. So it's totally crazy. And just
anyway, bad take from Rising.
Point.
We're here to call him out. Sagar has a lot of bad takes. We don't get to all of them. His other bullshit take is that he defends the Electoral College. I'm sure he's a conservative. He's got a lot of fucking takes I don't agree with. But that was one that I was like, you call yourself a populist? You don't support you support the Electoral College. You don't support one person, one vote. That's not populism, buddy. Call yourself something different.
Not to mention, he doesn't even support legalizing cannabis, which a majority of the population approves of. How are you populist if you don't? It blows my fucking mind. It really does blow my fucking mind. And I don't know, man. It would have been, I don't know. Yeah. Like I said, obviously I do appreciate the show Rising. I think it's good shit. And generally, I do think Sagar, I mean, I could have a conversation with the guy. I don't think he's like a Klansman,
we have
right?
Him on the show, Sagar, if you're out there, sit in a hot seat.
Oh, yeah. We would happily talk to the dude. And I think like there are multiple positions he has that are more reasonable than your average conservative, like your Ben Shapiro conservative, different realm. So, I mean, we're trying to be fair here and give the man credit for his correct, stances on things. But he does have some cringe ass takes, some just dumb fuck opinions. And yes, thank you, Gina. It was a violin vigil that cops pepper sprayed. It was a memorial for, I believe, Elijah McClain. So yeah, that was one of many just, horrific, violent, state-sponsored acts of terror carried out by the police, while people were just trying to observe and, pay respects to victims of, murder. So it looks like Zach might have frozen up a little bit. You there, dude? Looks like Zach froze up. But yeah, you do always have to give Sagar some shit for hating on weed. That's probably his most hilarious opinion. Definitely just super fucking cringe. But yeah, I don't know what happened with Zach. But yeah, sorry, it was in Colorado, not Minneapolis. You're correct. It was in Colorado. And again, for Elijah McClain, who was senselessly murdered in the streets while walking home and wearing a hoodie, listening to music. He did absolutely nothing wrong. Probably one of the most tragic stories of police violence you'll ever read about. Truly, if you can, get through that story without crying, then you're a stronger person than I am. Yeah, that was really fucked up. So, yeah, I totally agree that this was just a bullshit opinion. Again, I don't know where Zach went. I think his internet froze up or something. Maybe his internet went out. Maybe his apartment got struck by lightning. Who knows? But that does pretty much conclude our topics of the night. So make sure to subscribe if you have not already, guys. Make sure to follow us on Twitter at vanguard_pod. We would appreciate that a lot. That Patreon link is in the description. Like I mentioned, that's patreon.com/the Vanguard channel. Also, Zach and I do have ambitions to take to the streets in our Sprinter van, hence the Vanguard name. We're trying to get our vehicle repaired right now. We need to weld the muffler back on, take it to a welder. So if you do want to support our efforts to get on the streets and make some documentaries, report on actions and activisms, such as what we saw over the summer, you can hit us up at Cash App too, Vanguard Pod. Super appreciated. Again, we're trying to get on the road, fix that van. So really appreciate that. Everyone watching. Looks like Zach might be back. What happened, dude?
Yeah, I just lost internet in my place. So
weird.
Reset all that shit.
Anyway, I was basically telling people that we were done with our, show for the most part anyway, and I'm just begging for money. But, other than that, did you have anything else you wanted to say before we sign off?
I'm reading through the chats really quick. I'd love giving Sagar shit for hating weed. I would love to get high as shit and then have a debate with Sagar about weed legalization, because I think that Gavin and I could still smoke his ass. And we would also demonstrate that daily ritual weed consumption does not impair your cognitive abilities. But anyway, thanks for watching, guys, and have a good one.
Imagine how much smarter you would be, Zach, if you didn't do that, though. You know what I'm saying? You'd be at level 500. You'd be like,
you know what? To record
Jordan Peterson.
to quote the late great Chance the Rapper. No, he's not dead. He just killed his career. Burn too many brain cells down to be worried about some brain cells now, homie. Anyway,
yeah, and I agree. Sagar is pretty annoying. Although I will say, and one more time, despite how annoying he is, I actually do kind of appreciate having that exposure to more conservative opinions. It helps me gauge where they're thinking, how they're thinking, and it helps you from a commentator perspective or like a debater or whatever. I think it helps you better craft your arguments against conservatism, against these ideologies. And it helps you argue better in favor of the things you actually believe, because it kind of forces you to confront other opinions. And obviously everyone should absorb different opinions. There's not really anything gained from just having an echo chamber. So obviously, I mean, don't go start listening to like fucking Sean Hannity or whatever and be like, this is a valuable opinion that I should absorb. But you know what I'm saying? Good faith actors, and I do think Sagar is a good faith actor.
That's what perplexes me.
Yeah.
So anyway,
yeah. But yeah, peace out, guys. Everyone have a good night. Make sure to subscribe if you have not already. And
tomorrow we've got a live reaction. We're watching the fucking masterpiece, the classic of all classic films, Clerks. We're going to be joined by our good friend Ryan Jenga, who Gavin and I have known for a long time. He's a filmmaker in Kansas City and a good friend of ours. So we'll be reacting to the 1994 masterpiece Clerks and commiserating about the burden and just fucking grind of wage-based customer service employment. So that will be our show tomorrow.
Yeah, make sure to tune in for that, guys. Hit that notification bell so you stay reminded. That'll be a great, really fun time. If you're a fellow Kevin Smith fan, like Zach said, come hang out with us. It'll be super chill.
Commiserating and hearing a lot of stories where the three of us. I've worked a job, a wage service job with both Gavin and our homie Ryan, and I have a lot of stories that I can tell about that. So be sure to tune in.
Indeed. And on that note, everyone have a good night.